Thank you all for joining us today for the session Connect and Collaborate, Strategies to Boost ESOL Enrollment and Retention. Okay, so with that, I'd like to introduce our presenters today, Daisy Shah and Linda Fermo-Garcia. They are specialists with the School District of Palm Beach County, Department of Adult and Community Education, and they are also CASA certified trainers for the state of Florida. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and pass it over to Daisy.
Thank you, Nicole. Good morning to all from sunny South Florida. And I am super excited that you could all join us this morning. And so is Linda.
Good morning, all. Just a little heads up, Daisy and I have opted to keep our cameras off for this particular presentation simply to minimize the drag on our Wi-Fi. It's been a little choppy from down in sunny Florida. So in order to make this run a little bit more smoothly, we're going to go ahead and turn off our cameras. Just a little bit about Palm Beach County. The Adult and Community Ed program here in Palm Beach County falls under the umbrella of the School District of Palm Beach County. We have over 30 sites that offer adult education, ABE, GED, ESOL, and CTE classes. Our sites also offer a variety of fun and leisure classes for all types of lifelong learners. Now that you know a little bit about our program, here's Daisy with today's agenda.
So together today, we will present some best practices and strategies that we have implemented in Palm Beach County for ESOL student outreach, enrollment, orientation, and retention, BC and DC. So by BC, I mean before COVID-19, and by DC, I mean during COVID-19 or due to COVID-19. So you will get a snapshot of both. At any time during the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box and we will try our best to address them towards the end of the presentation. And if for some reason we're unable to answer your question today, we will get back to you via email. All right, so now it's time for a quick icebreaker. In time of social distancing, it has become crucial to stay connected more than ever before. So who are you checking in on or connecting with today? Maybe a student, a colleague, a friend, a family member, maybe even your neighbor. So go ahead and type the answer in the chat box. Who are you reaching out to? Teachers and directors, friends and family, teachers and staff, my mother, oh, my students, yes. Students, we are reminded. All of those are excellent answers. Former students, yes. Parents and friends. Elderly neighbors. Oh. Family, friends, co-workers, colleagues. All right, so all of these are excellent, excellent answers. The truth is we all need contact with other people because connections promote wellness. So be sure to reach out to your loved ones. Now, Linda is going to highlight some best practices for community outreach.
Community outreach is a vital tool in promoting your program. Let's talk about the message and some of the tools we use in Palm Beach County to get our message out. To develop an effective message to promote your programs, you need to gear it towards your audience. Think about who you're trying to reach with this message. What do you want them to get from this communication? Take into consideration what platform that you're going to use to share the message. You always want to design your message with an end goal in mind. What action do you want your learners to take once they have received your message? Here's an example of one of our messages. Our Never Too Late campaign, although promoting Learning to Read actually targeted the caregivers of literacy students. And although the communication may differ slightly in each medium, the branding should always be the same. Your branding is one of the ways you can build a sense of community. Featured here are two of our tools for community outreach. We use ParentLink and the Palm Beach Educator. ParentLink is a mass communication tool that allows us to email, text, and automate phone calls to each of our students. The messages contain information about pre-registration, upcoming events, and class information. The messages can be tailored to the student in his or her native language. The Palm Beach Educator is a 40-page catalog published by the Palm Beach Post. The Palm Beach Educator is mailed to the residents of Palm Beach County. The Palm Beach Educator lists both our adult education classes as well as our fun and leisure classes for all of our 30 adult education sites. You notice that we have our branding for both the Palm Beach County School District, which is in the upper right-hand corner of the Educator, as well as our adult education community ed branding on the banner located at the bottom of the page. The action page in the cover, listed in English, Spanish, and Creole, is browse our catalog and find the right class for you. Register today. Additional communication tools that we use include social media, which we use for both target advertising as well as building community, our YouTube channel, various community events, advertising, including radio ads, and site-specific marketing. Some of our face-to-face community outreach events include the annual Back to School Bash, which is a school district sponsored event held at 3 locations throughout the county. We've also participated in college and career fairs, as well as attended events at the Caradid Family Shelter and Clinic. At each of these events, we've extended our community outreach by connecting with the participants and highlighting our programs. What I'd like for you to do now is to pretend that you are at a face-to-face community outreach event for your program. Think of 3 highlights or 3 key points you would use in a discussion with a participant. Go ahead and click on the link that I will be placing in the chat to open the Google form and type in 3 highlights of your programs. Once you submit the form, be sure to close the Google Form tab to return to this presentation. Go ahead and take a couple of minutes. Add your program name. Think of 3 points or 3 highlights for your particular program, and then go ahead and click on the Submit button. And take a look and see what kind of responses we're getting. They're starting to come in now. I like it. It's very effective. It's accessible to all. Offered blended learning. We have availability of ESOL. Outstanding teachers. That's always a great way to build community. Locations throughout the counties. Excellent. Letting people know that you're available. flexible scheduling, especially in the time of the pandemic, to make sure that you have availability for all of the learners and people participating in your program. Fun and interactive for your students. All excellent answers. Thank you so much. Now that you've thought of 3 of your key highlights for your program, let's take a look at a description that we actually use for our ESOL classes in Palm Beach County. We have a specific formula that we use when writing our class descriptions. In line 1, we always want to make sure that we have some type of audience attention, a grabber. Our second line is a very precise description of the class. The third line is where we list the benefits of taking the class. Those would be the highlights that you just entered into the Google form. And our fourth line is what other information is needed, such as a refund policy or site-specific information, and also the call to action. Student outreach looks very different today than it did back in March. Outreach consists of teachers contacting their current students and lots of word of mouth. So students know that we are continuing with our classes, but in a distance learning environment. Teachers went and reactivated their old WhatsApp groups as well as their Remind groups to let students know that we were still in business. There's been an increase in communication and interaction that consists of calls, emails, texts, and one-on-one conferences. On the social media side, our advertising campaign was actually paused and focused more on program and community updates, as well as getting students the resources that they needed, such as where they could find free Wi-Fi and the food distribution sites in Palm Beach County. Our webpage became more of a customer service tool by streamlining student contact information for our adult education sites. We also waitlisted students who wished to take summer classes, but we were not at that point enrolling any new students. We also went ahead and sent out a survey to students who did not re-enroll in our summer classes, trying to determine why they were not able to. And we've gone ahead and used that data to create better opportunities for our students moving forward. Now that we have the students interested and ready to learn, Daisy's going to discuss registration and testing.
So before I start talking about registration, let's do a quick activity. So I'm going to need you guys to use your chat boxes now and simply answer the questions that you see on the screen. So there you have it. You see the questions up on your screen. Go ahead and answer these questions, please, in the chat box. Ha ha ha, I cannot read it. Okay. Well, how about this? I'll make it easier for you. I'm going to go ahead and read the questions for you. So question number 1, Aaj ki Tariq. Question number 2, Naam. Question number 3, Janmatithi. Question 4, Aapka janma kahan hua tha? And question 5, Apne parivar ke baare mein ek kahani likhiye. There. So, Naam is bread. I should know this. I have a headache. Wow, such a beautiful language. Still confusing. All right. It sounds nice. Shaking my head, so confused. Okay, all right. We'll tell you what. Good try, everybody. You all get an A for effort. Okay, let's talk about this now. So when you first saw the questions, what were you thinking? I see some of you are already typing your answers in. You said, I don't understand, I'm confused, a little lost, huh? I picked the wrong class.
Now I know how my students feel.
Exactly. So some of you are lost, some of you are confused, and you know what? This is exactly how our ESOL students feel when they come to register and we hand them a registration form in English. And it is extremely important that our adult ELLs have a pleasant experience since the very first time they set foot on our campus. We want to make them feel welcomed. We want to make them feel comfortable, right? So now you probably would have felt differently or more positively if I presented this information to you in English or your native language, right? Do you agree? Can I get a yes there? Yes. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to do just that. There you have it. The form on the left is in the Hindi language, which is spoken in India. These questions were actually taken from the native language literacy screening tool that FDOE has designed. And now that you see the questions in English, I'm certain that you do not feel lost or confused.
Absolutely. Much better.
Yep. Much better. All right, so now let's talk about registration. So in Palm Beach County, we believe that quality customer service is key. So here are some strategies that our adult ed sites have implemented in order to create a welcoming environment during registration. So BC, before the COVID-19 pandemic, during the week of registration, majority of our adult education programs have signs up all over campus to point students in the right direction. These signs are often posted in multiple languages like English, Spanish, Creole, and Portuguese, depending on the site and their student demographic. Some sites also have greeters available who usually greet students with a big smile, welcome the students to the school, and provide the students with a brief overview of how the registration process works. We also have translators present that can provide additional assistance to the students if needed. Our registration forms are available in several different languages, so our students don't feel the way you just felt a couple minutes ago. And students also have the option of completing a paper form or a digital version on the computer. Some of our adult ed sites also have their returning or former students help out during the week of registration. So student volunteers will mainly assist with like translation or like taking new students from say the registration area to the testing room. Once the students have registered and paid, budget permitting, some sites like to give out welcome bags, or some sites call them swag bags. These bags often contain like a notebook, a pen, or a pencil with the site's personal logo on it. Some sites also offer incentives to students who bring a friend or a family member with them to register. Their name is entered in a raffle and they can win a prize simply for bringing a family member or a friend to enroll at the site as well. Once the students have registered and paid, before sending them to the testing area, it is important to have a conversation with them on how the intake and testing process works. So mainly the students know what to expect. We usually inform them how the intake process works. We inform them about the CASAS test a little bit, like it is a multiple choice reading and listening test. It is not a pass or fail test. We let them know that children are not permitted in the testing lab and that it may take them a couple of hours to complete the test. So just in case if a student is unable to stay and take the test on the same day, we created this handout that we give to the students so they know when to return to take the CASAS test. It also provides them with more information about the test in English, Spanish, and Creole, and we will be happy to share this document with you if you're interested. All right, so now Linda will go over our modified registration process, which we implemented DC due to COVID-19.
Our registration process had to do a complete pivot from what we were doing prior to DC. Our registration process only took place in the brick and mortar site. Our registration process needed to change from an open enrollment model to a managed enrollment model. Registration was phased in by concentrating on our current students from winter 2020 to get them to enroll in our summer term. Phase 2 concentrated on students that were previously enrolled in summer and fall of 2019, but had not enrolled in the summer term. We also recruited the students that were on the wait list from our student tracker and website contact list. All students in phase 2 were required to complete a digital registration form from home. Phase 1 and phase 2 grant money was used to cover tuition for these students because we had not yet developed an online payment process for our adult education students. In phase 3, what we did is piloted a complete digital solution where new students were able to complete the digital registration form as well as pay for class online. This successful pilot will be rolled out on a very limited basis for our fall term students. As you can see on the screen, our digital registration form is site specific, and it's also available in English, Spanish, Creole, and Portuguese. Daisy's going to highlight the changes to the orientation and placement during the pandemic.
So just like several other sites, we had to modify our orientation and placement procedures as well here in Palm Beach County. So once the student had registered online, someone from the site was to call the student to conduct a one-on-one orientation in English or the student's native language. During this orientation call, they welcome the student to their site and explain them the rest of the process. They also communicate expectations such as what equipment the student is going to need to be successful in the virtual modality, proper classroom etiquette in an online setting, and the importance of attendance were also communicated. For placement, like several other counties in the state of Florida, we simply used an oral intake form to determine student placement. This was administered only in English. Students who performed well were placed in a higher level ESOL class, and students that didn't do too well were placed in a lower level ESOL class. And either way, students were placed in classes where instructors differentiated instruction to help each individual student reach their full potential. So we have been talking for a while now, so now it's your turn to participate. So in the chat box, answer the question that appears on your screen. BC, before the pandemic, what did you do on the first day of class? Next slide, please. There. So what did you do on the first day of class before the pandemic? Like, how did your students know where their classroom is and how to get there? Please use the chat box to answer the question. Orientation PowerPoint, that's excellent. Orientation after the student was assigned. You made personal phone calls to each student. Wow. Stood outside my door, shook hands, excellent. I greeted them, orientation, campus tour.
Referrals with directions and times. I love that. Had point the way people in the hall.
Eating, have a campus map. Took them on a tour. Okay, all of these are excellent, excellent answers. Okay, so thank you guys all for participating. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and share with you what the first day of class looks like at some of our sites here in Palm Beach County, or how the first day of class looked like here in Palm Beach County before the pandemic. So one of our sites, or Site A, has colorful welcome signs posted throughout campus in several languages to welcome their new and returning students. This site also posts a student list right outside the office, and the list contains information such as student's name, the room that they're to report to, and their teacher's name. Translators are also present in the hallways to assist students with any questions that may have or if they're lost. Before class begins at this particular site, instructors are required to stand outside their classrooms to greet and welcome students. And each instructor also has a student list to help point students in the right direction. During class, students are welcomed by their instructors. They get to participate in fun icebreakers and getting to know you activities and collaborate with their peers. Instructors go over the basic classroom rules and school policies and add students to their class on the Remind app. So if you're not familiar with the Remind app, it is an excellent tool that teachers can use to communicate with their students or send out announcements. And you're doing all of this without exchanging any phone numbers or emails. And the best part is it is free. So be sure to check out Remind to connect and collaborate with your students. And now at our Site B. Site B actually hosts a brief orientation on the first day of school where they welcome their students and communicate expectations. The administrator then introduces the faculty and staff to the students. And once that is done, each instructor gathers their students based on their class rosters and walks them to their appropriate classrooms. Adult learners that may arrive late are escorted to their classrooms by a student volunteer. And once in the classroom, the instructor goes over the classroom rules with them. So now I'm going to hand it off to Linda, who will provide you with a brief overview on what the first day of class looked like in the virtual modality earlier this term.
So even though we're in a distance learning environment, the first day of class hasn't changed. It's imperative for teachers to have students comfortable. In Palm Beach County, we actually use the Google Classroom suite, as well as Build Community. Introductions still take place, but they're done virtually with the camera on. Teachers still create fun icebreakers. They've just moved them over to the virtual modality. Teachers take time to explain how the entire process works. The syllabus and curriculum are shared, and the Remind app and WhatsApp groups are created. I'd like to take a quick shout out to the Palm Beach County instructional coaches. They put together a professional development strategy that ensured all of our teachers had the tools they needed to be successful in the distance learning environment. So now that we've talked about the first day of school, both pre and post, Daisy's going to talk about orientation.
Now I'll share with you two different ways that some sites conduct orientation for their students here in Palm Beach County before the pandemic. So our first site has an ongoing 2-week orientation process. At this particular site, during the first week of school, the instructors review the class rules in their classrooms. They emphasize the importance of attending class on a regular basis, and each student is provided with a campus map that highlights all the hot spots, such as the office, the computer labs, the testing area, the student parking lot, so on and so forth. Each class also gets the opportunity to tour the campus with their instructors. And week 2 is when the official orientation takes place. Students meet in the media center by levels. Translators are usually present to translate the information that is being shared. This is when students are provided with a student handbook, and the information like school policies are covered in detail. This is also the time when the administrators talk about school and campus safety and inform students of the drills that take place at the site throughout the term. Students are then provided with a contract that states that they have received a handbook and that they understand the information covered during the orientation. Students are required to sign the contract, and then we collect them back and place them in the students' folders. At Site B, orientation happens during the first week of class. School policies and procedures are explained to the students. During the orientation, they emphasize the importance of attending class on a daily basis. They inform the students that they have the ability to access Burlington English on their personal devices and encourage the students to continue learning English at home as well. Students are informed about the incentives that the site offers to them if they have perfect attendance or if they have the highest number of usage hours in Burlington English at the end of the term. From the get-go, students are made aware that they need to have at least 70 hours of instruction to be able to take the post-test at the end of the term. Faculty and staff contact information is shared with the students, and at this particular site, like during the orientation, this site also markets their community ed and citizenship programs to students, just in case if their friends or family members are interested in signing up for a class. Okay. On the next slide, you'll get to see some pictures from our student orientation week. And this is when our sites actually start building that sense of community within their organizations. So now it's time for our first poll question of the day. And that question is, Nicole, can we display the poll question, please?
I'm sorry, I don't have the poll question. Can you let me know? Can you go to the next slide and I can add it for you?
Sure, that's no problem. We'll move on to the next slide.
So orientation has changed, of course. Part of the orientation process is to actually make sure that our students are able to log in to the student portal. In Palm Beach County, in order for students to reach their Google Classroom, they need to log into the student portal. The School District of Palm Beach County created videos on how to log into the student portal and access the Google Classroom. Our teachers used these instructional videos to ensure students were able to access Google Classroom in order to see what their assignments. The virtual campus orientation became vital. Students were getting acquainted with the Google Suite navigation. Again, we went ahead and created the WhatsApp groups and the Remind groups during orientation week, and school websites were changed so that they were much more user-friendly. Another thing that actually evolved out of this process is that teachers now have virtual office hours where students can schedule a one-on-one meeting with the students in order to reach their educational goals. What we're displaying on the screen is one school's website and how it changed into something that was very simple for the students to reach out to their teachers. Coming onto this website, students just have to do one click and actually email any questions or concerns that they have to their instructors. Now that we have our students comfortable with the tools and have open lines of communication, let's talk about how we're going to keep them engaged and learning.
All right, so let's dive right into the extremely crucial topic of retention. So in Palm Beach County, we encourage all our adult ed students to download the ESOL Palm Beach County mobile app so they can receive important alerts, announcements, notifications, all of that directly on their cell phones. They can also easily access school information, course catalog, view social media updates, and register for fun and leisure classes right there on the app. And all of this information is available to our students, not only in English, but also in their native language. Now, here are some common retention strategies. In order to best support and serve your learners, it is important to know them, know what their goals are, what their strengths and weaknesses are, what their learning style is, and what their preferred style of communication is. So know your students in order to best assist them and better equip them. Offer student-centered education that is relevant because, of course, as we all know, adult learners want to know what's in it for me and how can I apply the newly acquired knowledge or skill in a real-life situation. Offer incentives, recognize your students, and reward them. Establish new friendships, opportunities, and build a sense of community where learners feel welcomed, respected, and appreciated. Celebrate student success and milestones, from something as simple as a birthday celebration to something like a promotion at work or a student becoming a US citizen. Okay, and listen to your students, connect with them, collaborate with them, and collect feedback from them. Then analyze the data and make data-driven, informed decisions that are best for not only your students, but also your overall program. Now, these are some of the retention strategies that we have implemented here in Palm Beach County at the county level. So in Palm Beach County, adult ed students get to pre-register for the upcoming term in advance. This also allows for them to have access to the instructional software during the break between the two terms. District's attendance initiative is where students with 3 consecutive absences receive an automated parent link robocall in their native language. If former students from previous terms did not return to register, we reach out to them and inform them that, hey, you know, registration for the new term is now open and that we really miss you, so come back to us. We're also fortunate enough to have an accommodation specialist that assists adult learners in our county who have self-identified reach their educational goals. So on the next slide, you'll see some pictures of our students. Some students are seen proudly displaying their group project. In the picture on the bottom right corner of the screen, though, you'll see one of our adult ed APs and the ESOL coordinator with their student who just became a US citizen. They brought her flowers and they were there with her and her family to celebrate. So it's the little things that make a huge impact on our students' lives. Here are some more pictures that you're about to see on the screen. And in these pictures here, you are going to see our students with community members, such as paramedics and police officers. Our administrators here do an excellent job of cultivating and maintaining business partnerships with the local communities and organizations. So talking about our administrators and sites, these are some retention strategies that our sites have implemented over the years. So prior to the pandemic, some of our sites gave out weekly perfect attendance snacks to students with perfect attendance. Some sites hosted ice cream socials and conversation breaks where students were encouraged to communicate with their peers from other levels in English. Some sites hosted game nights that were followed by a cultural potluck celebration. Students were to talk about the ingredients and present the recipe that they had prepared. So even when they were like having fun, they were still working on their English language skills. All of our sites here in Palm Beach County host an end of term promotion celebration ceremony for the students. Some of the sites also offer incentives like a pizza party for students with highest Burlington English usage or for like a class with most gains at the end of the term. So on the next slide, you will see some more pictures. Here you see our students during a game night and a potluck collaborating with one another. On the bottom left corner of the screen is a Burlington English Superstars bulletin board. And on the bottom right corner of the screen are our attendance superstars with perfect attendance. Continuing with more retention strategies, several sites use the Remind app that I mentioned earlier to connect with their students and to keep them informed. At one site, students with perfect attendance get a little prize bi-weekly, and they have the opportunity to get a picture taken with their principal. And let me tell you something. Our adult students absolutely love getting their picture taken with their principal, and they will come in all dressed up that evening for that picture. Some sites use tutors and volunteers that assist learners with small group instruction either before or after class. Several of our sites host college college fairs, career fairs, resource fairs, where students get to learn about the different programs and services that are offered locally. As you saw in the pictures, our sites have a great partnership with local businesses and community organizations. Before the pandemic, our students used to be able to go on field trips as well. So they would go on a field trip to places like the local library or the local college campuses and our GED testing centers. On Saturdays, some sites would open up their computer labs for students who may want to use a computer for instructional purposes in presence of a lab monitor. So on the next slide, you'll see some more pictures of our students being showcased and some pictures from the promotion ceremonies at various sites. Now it is your turn to share. Nicole, do we have the polls up yet? If not, we'll move on to the next slide.
Yes, we have the polls.
Awesome. Can we do poll 2, please?
Yes.
Thank you. So there you have it. Select one retention strategy that was most used in your program before the pandemic. Go ahead and select one strategy, please, a retention strategy. I'm going to give you a few more seconds there. All right, Nicole, can we go ahead and display the results, please? Okay, so the data shows that most popular retention strategy prior to the pandemic was celebrations at 35%. All right, thank you guys for participating. Now I'm going to hand it off to Linda, who will highlight some retention strategies that our sites have implemented due to COVID-19.
Retention strategies in a learning environment need to be just as engaging, establishing a connection with students and building community. Teachers now use online games instead of board games. You can do a virtual Pictionary with your students. You can do a Kahoots. You can do a Quizlets. Virtual lunches and potlucks are still a very good way of building community, where students would actually show a picture of their meal as well as talk about the recipes and how that meal was actually created. Some of our sites have actually done themed sessions where students will actually dress up as what their career goal is. And again, sharing that on camera, discuss what the options are for that particular position. Sites have actually done Spirit Week, where each time the students meet, they wear a different color shirt or a different type of hat. Again, making sure that we're building community in a virtual environment. And just as the data showed, celebrations are still a very big deal in the virtual environment. Students can wear a birthday hat or hold up a celebration sign, again, on camera to build that community. Same thing with online birthday celebrations, where students can actually receive a virtual birthday card from their instructors. And of course, inviting guest speakers is always a bonus, and it can be done in the virtual environment through the Google Meets classroom. Some of the interactive resources that our teachers are using are Kahoots and Quizlets. Instead of getting on a bus and heading to a brick and mortar destination, our students now do virtual field trips. One of our site administrators, and it was also mentioned a little earlier in the chat, took the extra step to create paper packets and mailed them to his students with the added step of a self-addressed stamped envelope so students can send the completed work back to the school. In Palm Beach County, we use 3 separate instructional software tools. Daisy has mentioned Burlington English. We also use Essential Education and Learning Upgrade. Many sites offer competitions with prizes to foster student engagement. Some of our sites have actually mailed out certificates just to show the students that they are appreciated and moving over into a virtual classroom. Building community and keeping students engaged also means that assignments can be submitted in a variety of mediums. You want to be able to make sure you use the medium that's easiest for your students to use. In this case, the example on the screen is that it was a writing assignment and the students actually took a picture and just texted it over to their teacher. Here's some screenshots that were taken during different Google Meets. You'll notice in the upper left-hand corner, the students are engaged in a virtual field trip. In the upper right-hand corner, as well as the lower left-hand corner, students are presenting their work using various software packages. In the right-hand corner, a teacher is actually sharing the standout presentation tool and displaying the lesson to the students. And right in the middle is our favorite tool for the county, which is Kahoots. Now we have our third poll of the day. Thank you, Nicole. Please select one retention strategy that is most used in your program since moving to a distance learning environment. We'll give you a couple more seconds to go ahead and cast your vote. And Nicole, if you want to go ahead and display our results, that would be awesome. Gamified interactive resources. Everybody likes to build that sense of community with a friendly competition. Okay, you can go ahead and close that poll. Thank you everybody for participating in our poll today. And we would like to take a look at if we have any outstanding questions. Nicole?
Yes, we have a couple of questions. So we have one question here. Can digital registration from an oral intake form be shared? So do you guys have that available for them?
Well, the oral intake that Daisy showed was a modified version of the intake form that's available on the Department of Education website, and we can certainly share that location. The digital registration form itself is actually specific to Palm Beach County, and it's part of our internal form process. I don't know how that would be for sites outside of our county. If you want to get me that
All right.
email, I can take that offline.
Sure, yeah. Okay, we also have another question here. Can you explain how you use WhatsApp groups?
So with that, a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of, but some of our students are unable to get onto Google Classroom and all. So what some of the instructors do is they'll assign or send assignments using the WhatsApp group. And I know some of our instructors have also used WhatsApp for like one-on-one student conferences and just to simply assist students before or after class.
The other thing to know about the WhatsApp app is that it was extremely popular before we went into the virtual environment. Many of our learners actually use that to communicate with family members around the world. So that was one of the common denominators that was available to us before the pandemic actually happened.
All right, so we have another question here. Our program is open enrollment, so students trickle in. How do you share the orientation information for students who join after the first 2 weeks?
That's an excellent question. So before the pandemic, at some of the sites, what used to happen is that they would do this once a month. So they keep track of who has enrolled after the first orientation, right? And then they would just gather that little group and go over all those policies and things again with them.
All right. Next question is, what did your survey show regarding why folks haven't re-enrolled?
That's an excellent question. The majority of the responses to that particular survey is that the learners actually had to go to work and that they weren't able to participate in class at that particular time. And those are actual learners that are back on our wait list for when we reach out to our students for fall enrollment.
All right. How are all your wonderful retention ideas supported financially?
Sorry, Nicole, you cut off at the end there.
Oops, I'm sorry. I'll read that again. How are all your wonderful retention ideas supported financially? We'd love to do this too.
With retention ideas, hosting college and career fairs and things like that is really all about building that partnership with the local communities and organizations, right? And we use like the free apps, like the Remind app and all that to reach out to our students to ask them to come back and register. With field trips and all, that's something our district, our night school APs work with the daytime bus drivers and all, and they figure it out. And hosting, say, an ice cream social. The APs have that relationship built with that local ice cream shop that is willing to donate some ice cream for this specific event. So there's a lot of like partnerships and relationships involved here.
And then also APs have written in their budget sometimes that they just give gift cards and things along those lines.
All right. How can you use Quizlet with a variety of languages at the same time?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Nicole, if you can give us that person's email address, we'll reach out to them offline about that.
Sure, I'll do that. Okay. Another question here is, how does Palm Beach assist students who are device or broadband under-resourced?
Well, the digital divide is definitely an issue no matter where you go in the state of Florida. And during the pandemic, I'm sure that everybody knows that of the big internet service providers offered free Wi-Fi. So we did a concerted effort to make sure that we pushed out that information to all of the students, both on the K-12 side as well as the adult ed side. And we are still struggling with the device issue. We're still exploring different ways to actually approach that. In Palm Beach County on the K-12 side, the school district loaned devices to the students, and many of our adult ed participants also have students in the K-12 realm, so they've been using their devices as well.
Okay, we have another question here. Please give examples of gamified interactive resources. Are you referring to Kahoot and Quizlet or others?
Mainly Kahoot and Quizlet. That seems to be the most popular ones in the district, probably because they're the easiest to use at this point.
And those are all the questions I have right now.
Okay, so we're going to turn back to the presentation, and Daisy has some closing remarks.
So we just wanted to give a quick shout out to our colleagues, Ava and Brian, who helped us put this presentation together. And we also want to say a big thank you to all of our sites who shared valuable information with us for this presentation. On the next slide, you'll see our contact information. Feel free to reach out to us if you think of any questions later, or if you simply want to connect with us. And now, get your phones ready, please. Like, share, and follow ESOL Palm Beach County on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. That is ACEOF PBC. Keep in touch. We look forward to connecting and collaborating with you in the future, and enjoy the rest of your conference.
Their session in the chat. So, and I'll leave this open for a few more minutes while you guys get that. Also, when we close the session, there will be a survey that pops up. Please do the survey. Your feedback really helps us. And please don't forget to visit the portal, participate in the forum, and in the silent auction. And you can also get the essay book from there. So with that, thank you guys again. I'll go ahead and post the presentation now, and so you can get it from there, and have a wonderful rest of the conference.